Fragments of Silicon, set me free!
All right, welcome to another installment of Fragments of Silicon. Here's Adam, joining me as always are Petty and Golix. Let us get to the random musings of life that we doll up to be called the news. Golix, why don't you start us off this week?
I have been left to my own devices for a while as my parents go on vacation for a bit.
Oh man.
Today's the first day, so nothing interesting yet, but I'm also taking some time off from work over the next couple of weeks to make sure that stuff that needs to get done gets done, and hopefully also do some things that I've been meaning to do for a while, like maybe get rid of some of my old clothes and stuff. We'll see. Otherwise, nothing too amazing. Haven't had a whole lot of time or have been having trouble making time to play video games for a while. Been doing some Splatoon 3, but I also need to get back to Pokemon Scarlet to do the latest special raids things.
What is the current one now? I've not been keeping
Well,
track
I
at
haven't
all.
updated since the last one, which was 7-star Mightiest Dondozo and Shiny Tatsugiris. And I wanted to try and get the Shiny Tatsugiris. But the current one is Gimmighoul raids with a chance of Shinies, and what are the outbreaks? I don't know what the outbreaks are currently. Ba-da-ba-dum.
Oh god, he's doing live research.
I just want to be accurate. Wattrel, Riolu, and Comfey with high chances of shiny.
Shiny Riolu would be kind of nice. I have a shiny Lucario, but not a Riolu.
Anyway, that is what that is at. Last weekend, we didn't have my normal Pathfinder game because one of my friends is on vacation, but he invited us to come up for the day to the cabin they're renting on Sebago Lake. Had a nice day out there, mostly just sat near the lake and read. It's not like a sandy beach area, but they had like canoes and a little dock thing.
Yeah.
Other people went swimming, but when they were going, didn't line up with when I felt like it. Plus, I didn't have anything to wear on my feet while my feet were wet, so...
Yeah. Trust me, I know the feeling.
That is a sensory, as they say.
God, fucking tell me about it.
And yeah, I think that's about all I got.
Well, that means it's your go, Petty.
Well, this past week, it has been too cold for me to swim, which is kind of good because it wasn't until today till we finally got the pool to turn back to blue. Because, yeah, so the algae bloom is dead. There's still some bits of algae that tomorrow I'm going to refill the pool and stick the vacuum on it. Especially because tomorrow's going to be in the 90s, so I can actually get in there and control the vacuum. Because it's right where the return jet is, so I'm thinking what's happening is it's pushing it... The flow from the return jet is pushing it away from where that spot of algae is. So if I have my hand on it and just pushing it through, it shouldn't be a problem. So that's fun. Turns out tomorrow my dad is having carpal tunnel surgery, so that's fun. Luckily, this is workers' comp, so while he will be off work, he'll still be getting paid. So that helps tremendously because we're still looking for a job for Mom. As far as gaming goes, still been playing through more of Final Fantasy XIV. And also with the Digimon card game, well, I wasn't able to sell the Gallantmon card last week. I have another person who is a very interested buyer who has some stuff that I want he's been trying to get rid of for almost a year. So it's one of those, even if the cost of the Gallantmon card does drop, he just wants to get rid of that stuff anyway. So win-win. I think I'm going to get like $150 cash and then just the rest of those cards out of trade. So, I mean, basically, like I didn't buy a box, so that's the best I could ask for, really. I kind of want to find some time to get back into playing. What's it called? Spider-Man 2 on the PlayStation. It's just there's been so much stuff going on, and that part of it is that game is so damn huge. It's almost
I'm
daunting.
assuming you mean Spider-Man 2 for the PlayStation 2 and not Spider-Man 2 Enter Electro for the PlayStation
No,
1.
the PlayStation 5 play Spider-Man
Oh.
2.
See, this is the problem when you have like
I
literally 3 games.
I know, I despise it. But yeah, it's like it's been sitting on my PlayStation literally since I bought it because I bought the PlayStation bundle of the PS5 Slim. So it's like, why don't I just finish this?
Lots of reasons.
Yeah. I may next week if things are a lot more quiet because I have another Digimon thing this weekend again to try and sell that card, and they're doing a win-a-box tournament, so I could get another Ghost Rare card. Wouldn't that be hilarious?
Hooray!
I mean, they're still going for $200-$300, so $30 entry fee, and I potentially get another one. I'd do that any day. But yeah, I may start streaming it just to kind of push me to play more of it. It really depends. I also need to get back into Digimon World 3. I have a lot of games I'm playing.
And join the club.
Yeah. But yeah, I think that's it from me.
All right, it's my go. Let's see where to start. All right, had to push my vision exam into September because of a lot of family stuff going on at the moment. First of all, school time has come to the local area. By local area, I mean Florida. For those who don't know, the school year in the South is a bit different than in the North. Instead of from June to September, it's May to August. So the regular school year started up this week. So the niece and nephews are starting up their regular schooling or irregular schooling, as the case may be. Like, let's just say that's a point of contention between my brother and his ex. One of several, of course, but it's kind of the big sticking point right now. But speaking of which, good news on his end is he has managed to find a new job, like in the school system, no less, which is handy. Like, as he is going to be a bus driver. Like, so, he says compared to being a truck driver, it's going to be child's play. I'm like, interesting choice of words there.
Yeah, I would tell him that generally heavy truckloads don't scream and complain and get boo-boos, but uh, it's still an important job, even if the hours are. I guess the hours aren't that bad, but
The hours are
some
just
of them is early.
the hours are unusual because, at least in terms of normal 9 to 5 work hours and stuff. But my brother wasn't doing that beforehand. He had the graveyard shift at Walmart, so and he's been kind of getting by like doing Uber and odd jobs and shit like that. So comparatively speaking, this is going to be steady.
Mm-hmm.
It's just he's going to have to get up in the morning and like trying to remember, like it was like 7 to 10 or something like that, and then 3 to 6. Not sure if those are the exact hours, but it's something like that. He has to work early in the morning and then late afternoon. Like, anyway, still, it's better than he's been doing for the past month. So things have been improving there. Anyway, in terms of games, still playing through the Master Chief Collection. I've hit Halo 3 ODST, aka the one that just kind of got forgotten. I'd say the one with the shittiest sound design. Whoever put the panting sounds when you got shot, that wasn't a good idea. Anyway, I think that's about it for me this week. So merrily we shall roll along to the interview portion of the broadcast. And joining us for the first time in a good long while is our good friend John Pickett of MangaGamer.
Hello, everyone. It's good to be back again.
It's good to have you. It's been a gulf of time since we've had you on the show last.
Yeah, it has.
Not sure. It's mainly down to the fact that MangaGamers, well, for lack of better terminology here, had no new releases. At least, no MangaGamer branded releases, either on your store or on Steam or anything like that. I mean, I've seen the odd third-party release on MangaGamer.
Yeah, we've been in sort of this downtime where we're waiting on a few different projects to finish reaching viability. Yeah, we've been releasing a lot of third-party titles, adding those to our website, and that's been keeping things running pretty well. It's kind of an interesting time in visual novels now, with just the competition starting to pick up a little bit. Some people, I don't know, may be familiar with Shiravoon, which is run by DMM, one of the major digital publishers of eroge in Japan. They've decided to sort of start getting into the market, and so that's kind of been changing the landscape for everyone.
In a positive or negative light?
I mean, it comes with both, I would say. So a lot of for one thing, from the fan perspective, there's a lot more visual novels coming out right now. They've been very aggressive with their licensing and releases. Their quality of their releases has been, people have told me it's a bit hit or miss. I have not verified for myself, but so that's you kind of have to pay more attention to who worked on the project there to figure out what to expect from them. Um, and then and I mean, as a publisher developer, it's made it with more competition for licenses. It's made it a bit more difficult for everyone trying to license games. But overall, that just means the market's very healthy, very growing, very stable. So I think overall, it's good for everyone.
That's good to hear. Like, remember, like, I want to say last year you were voicing concerns of the mobile market and such overtaking visual novels.
Yeah.
Right. Which understandable to a certain extent, but what the mobile market caters to does tend to be different.
Yeah, you can't do porn on the mobile market.
I'm like, not officially. Like, though that may be changing in some regards, only because like Apple has to allow third-party stores and such in the EU region, stuff like that. Like,
Yeah,
stuff that stuff
but
that's less out
I
of.
think they're still pretty. I don't know. From what I've seen, Apple's still pretty strong on enforcing the no adult content because I've seen more. I've seen a fair deal of apps sort of change their artwork or make adjustments to try and cover up the adult and make sure they don't get viewed as adult, lest the ban hammer come
No,
down on the app markets.
right, it's still baby days in new frontiers, let's say. Like, so, we'll have to see what happens there. But
Yeah.
that is not exactly where MangaGamer is focused. I suppose that does bring up a question: has your outfit ever looked into the mobile market to bring visual novels towards?
We had a few titles available on mobile for I want to say it was couple years, it was a handful of years. There was a third party company that we worked with that was interested in porting and bringing a lot of our releases to the mobile market, and we worked with them to do so. But that the company that we work with is no more, and so those are not available there anymore.
I'm guessing they didn't do particularly well.
Yeah, no, not really. It seems right now that if someone wants to play a visual novel while they're on the go, they want to do it on like the Switch or the Steam Deck. I think people like the
That
bigger screen for this medium.
that's probably part of it, but I don't think it would explain all of it because, in terms of mobile, well, you can get an iPad,
Yeah.
and Kindle readers are, I think, still popular.
Are
I'm
very
honestly not sure.
popular.
Yeah, it's like I think that has more to do with the roots of visual novels more than anything else, since
True.
they visual novels came out of the world of video games, and not just like
Yeah, it's just
PC.
harder. Yeah, I think it. Yeah, you have a point. It's a lot harder to try and adapt a visual novel just to the way mobile apps and games are monetized because it's like yeah, most visual novels you just buy it once, but anyone on a phone is not going to want to buy a $30, $40 game because it's just
Yeah.
not something you do on phones.
No, not to mention, as we've been talking about, the you know the restrictions do hit a good spectrum of the visual novel, oeuvre pretty hard. Because,
Yeah.
I mean, let's be honest here, like, a good deal of your titles are eroge.
Yup.
Eroge. Yeah, adult.
Eroge. Yeah.
Eroge, that's
It's
the
short for
term.
erotic games.
So, like, good. These things have trouble releasing on, like, Steam, let alone, consoles or the App
Yeah.
Store. Um,
Yeah, no
all
kidding.
right. Speaking of such things, so you did have some announcements at Anime Expo.
Yes, we did.
So
Uh,
what is it? What was What was revealed there?
Okay. So, as first off, did I ever talk about the upcoming Steam Prison Beyond the Steam on this podcast?
I know you talked about a Steam Prison. Is this like the DLC or something like that?
It's the latest. Probably sequel is the best term for what this one is. We announced it around May at ASEN.
Like, then we probably haven't talked about it yet. Like, I know we've talked about Steam Prison a fair bit, like, but
Yeah.
I don't think we talked like about the unofficial like sequel sized follow up. Like, I know we talked about like a smaller scale follow up.
Yeah, I know which one you're talking about. Yeah, so Beyond the Steam, we are currently working with the developers Hunex on that to provide a simultaneous international release. Um, this one and Beyond the Steam, it adds 2 tales to the world of Steam Prison. One titled A New Theory presents an alternative take on the original story where Cirrus meets Sashen and ends up getting involved with the Hounds and having a romantic ending with him. The other uh, main story added with Beyond the Steam is the Cain Abel story, which is it takes place directly after the grand ending of the original Steam Prison. And then this story, Cirrus and several of the men that she met during the first game journey to a new desert kingdom of Cain Abel, where she meets with either the younger king Jevit, friendly, capable young man, burns hot like the sun, or the older king, Jareem, who's more of a stoic beacon for the people. And both of them are trying to secure this kingdom's future. And which one she ends up supporting. There's multiple storylines, multiple endings. Um, each of the sort of main stories centered around each of those two kings has several different branching paths and endings. The game also adds bonus episodes for all of the original games, romanceable characters. So, yeah. Fans of
Sounds
Steam
neat.
Prison will find a lot of good stuff to look forward to in this. And we were very recently able to announce that Beyond the Steam is slated for release this November, November 28th. and people can pre-order it on our website now or wishlist it on Steam.
Neat.
Mm-hmm.
It certainly, at the very least, sounds meaty.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So that was one of the new announcements we've had since last time. We also, at Anime Expo, we were very lucky to have Yukishi, the author of Higurashi and When They Cry, with us, and announced our acquisition of one of his other series, Rose Guns Days.
Mm-hmm.
This is a 4-chapter work. As he mentioned kind of during the panel, he was originally inspired to make it after his first visit to Anime Expo many, many, many years ago. So he was feeling all kinds of embarrassed about it being brought over to the West, since it was kind of made specifically for the Japanese audiences to sort of share the feelings that he had after experiencing, the fans and conventions over here in the West. But that's kind of the story behind the inspiration. The storyline is it's actually very interesting. At least I was looking it up when I was prepping to do the announcement for the panel. So the Rose Guns Days is set in an alternate history where, instead of Japan being nuked at the end of World War II, Japan was instead struck by a natural disaster before that could happen, and as a result, the nation was occupied by both Chinese and American forces, who basically came in under the pretense of rebuilding and restoring Japan, only to occupy it indefinitely, and due to the competing interests between US and China, sort of parcel up the entire country like a checkerboard. And yeah, so both as a result of the occupation, both nations sponsored massive immigration programs to sort of try and assert their authority in the nation of Japan, basically leaving the Japanese people sort of not only a minority, but also oppressed in their own home. And so the story of Rose Gun Days starts around the time that a veteran from World War II returns to the newly occupied and divided Japan, where he meets the proprietress of a brothel, and from there it escalates into the birth of a new mafia family that is aiming to gain power within their little district that's been parceled out of Tokyo, so they can create a new home for their Japanese brethren. And it's all while sort of fighting different underworld, gang, mafia, as well as the sort of occupational forces. It's a very exciting title, and it sounds
I am getting
genuinely sounds more action filled than Higurashi was. Definitely, might say more so than Umineko.
I'm getting Code Geass flashbacks for some reason.
Adam, can you please stay out of my mind? I was literally just thinking that.
That's probably, yeah, you're probably thinking that because of the whole occupied and divided Japan thing. Yeah. Code Geass definitely, yeah, that part's a little similar, but
Indeed. Anyway, So this is on track for a late November.
We do not have a release date
Oh no,
announced
it's
for.
Steam.
Yeah,
preview,
Beyond the Steam
sorry.
will be November. Rose Guns Days, we do not have any release date yet. We are working to do a multilingual release for it, where we'll release it on Steam in both Japanese, English, and Chinese.
I mean, makes sense.
Yeah.
Mm.
We're also updating the original graphics to be 1280 by 960 resolution. So that'll help sort of bring it up to par for a more modern audience.
Mm.
And we will be releasing each of the 4 chapters individually, much like we did with the original release of Higurashi on Steam.
Mm-hmm.
And
So when you say chapters, it's more like games, not like visual novel chapters inside of the game, right?
right, when I say chapters, I'm talking like think very similarly to like the quote unquote chapters of Higurashi,
All right.
where each
Because
one
originally
is
I thought I was like, damn, that's gonna be shorter. It's only 4 chapters. Like, oh, it's basically 4 games. Okay, that's very different.
yeah. No, it's
Like, anyway, so announcement number 2 was The Alchemist and His Battle-Scarred Homunculus. Like, the very light novel title right there.
Yeah, this is our latest acquisition from Waffle, the same creators of Funback Fantasy.
Hmm.
Obviously, this one is an adult title.
Yeah, I was about to say, Funback Fantasy. I wonder if this is gonna be allowed on
Yeah.
Stream.
Well, we're not
we'll be
showing any
trying to get it
footage
on
of it.
Steam. It will just be in the adult section.
Like-
But yeah, the Alchemist and His Battle-Scarred Homunculus. It's actually somewhat of a heartwarming and dramatic tale. It follows Raquel's, the titular alchemist, who he originally helped create the living homunculi in this world with the hopes of that they would be used to better the lives of mankind. However, his partner betrayed him and turned their creations into tools of war. And so while Raquel's spoke out against the homunculi's use as soldiers and weapons, he was exiled for doing so. And it is many years later that he encounters this character's heroine Mel, homunculus who has been discarded by a slave trader. She meets Raquel's long after her time fighting in the war, and the story itself focuses a lot more on the two of them working together to confront and sort of overcome the different traumas of their respective pasts, forming a new bond that helps them form a future together. There's a couple different endings, so the shape that future takes will vary a little bit. But it's a very heartwarming tale. Probably unique to this one, I would say, is the fact that it is very much a single heroine game. The homunculus Mel is the one and only woman you will be interacting with and enjoying intimate moments with.
Mm.
Yeah, it's very I think for people that want a a nice adult game with very good, very solid character development and character introspection will find a lot to enjoy in The Alchemist and his battle-scarred homunculus.
Mm. And does this one have a does this have a release date yet?
It does not have a release date at the moment, but it is at least in beta testing already.
So things are moving along there.
Yeah.
Right. So, are there any other titles you wish to highlight at this point in time?
I was trying to think. We have been making steady progress on quite a few of our other titles. I know Welcome to a Sexy Open World is also entering beta testing, so we should be seeing that not too long in the near future. Our clock up title, Dead Days, is also on its way out of beta testing, so that should be ready for release hopefully here this year. And I will say we still have 2 more very exciting announcements that we will be announcing at Anime NYC next week.
Man. Because summer con
Hopefully,
season getting ready to finish up here soon, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm not used to Anime NYC being this early. It's usually in November.
Yeah, usually Anime NYC is your last event. It's wait a second, hold on,
It's still
August.
our last event. It's just
Yeah, fair.
Oh.
Yeah, if anyone's in New York for Anime NYC, we also hope that you'll come by, check us out, stop by the booth. We'll have all kinds
Indeed.
of hard copies and hug pillows and other good stuff.
Yeah. Well, John, as always, it's been lovely having you on our program to talk about the various dealings of MangaGamer. So, in lieu of a definite return date, I'll probably ping you in, November to see how things are progressing, given the slowness of the current release slate.
Yeah, we'll keep in touch and we'll figure out a date too.
Yeah.
All right. So, with that in mind, if you heard something that piqued your interest, or if you want to check out MangaGamer's titles, they're on Steam. Are you still on GOG?
Yeah, we still have several titles on GOG.
Okay. And they have their own store at MangaGamer.com.
Yep, you can find our full catalog there.
Mm-hmm. So, as well as some stuff from other parties. So, be sure to check them out today.
Thank you very much.
Petty, not a problem. Petty, play us to the next segment. All right, so welcome to the topic of discussion. So this week we are talking about Braid. Braid, the seminal Xbox Live Arcade title, or at least one of them. Braid, one of the vanguards of the early indie movement. There's been a lot said about Braid over the years. Perhaps more then than now. And that's kind of why I want to bring Braid up in the here and now. Because if you didn't notice, and there's a very good chance, according to the creator of the game, Braid had a re-release come out about 2 months ago, give or take a week or two.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, apparently the sales have been pretty bad. And, you know, and Jonathan Blow has, of course, not been quiet about the failure of Braid Anniversary Edition in the modern current marketplace.
Mm-hmm.
You know, blaming, well, let's be honest here, blaming anyone and everyone but himself for the apparent tanking of Braid Anniversary Edition. You know, and I will be fair that some salient points were raised in that, yeah, the marketplace is a lot noisier than it was back in 2008.
Yeah, we are looking at hundreds of indie games coming out on Steam a day.
Mm-hmm.
Compared to 1 or 2 a week, if that.
Yeah. As I noted when we were laying this topic down, Braid was the beneficiary of the kind of curation that not just indie developers, like any developer of downloadable titles would kill for.
They would pay actual money for.
Yeah. Because Braid, it wasn't just a highlight of the Xbox Live Arcade. It was something that was, used to promote the service.
Mm-hmm.
As it was one of the it was one of the games in the very first Summer of Arcade lineup. And if you don't remember or weren't around for the Summer of Arcade, this was a gathering of games that were so good that they were highlighted in a promotional package. These were the games that Microsoft was using to sell Xbox Live Arcade to the gaming masses. Think about that statement for a second there. That's where they saw Braid. And
a system seller, basically.
Maybe not a system seller, but certainly a
service seller.
That might be more apt.
It's alongside fellow indie title Castle Crashers, Geometry Wars 2, which at that point wasn't a indie title anymore. That Activision, Bizarre Creations, Bionic Commando Rearmed, Capcom, and Galaga Legions, that made up the first 5 Xbox Live Arcade games, Summer of Arcade titles. And, the way they were released, it's like, this was all you got on that week. Every Wednesday, it's just, this game was dropped.
Mm-hmm.
And that was it. It's something that was honestly even unthinkable just a few years down the line, because even by say 2000, I want to say 2010 or so, I know at a certain point, the amount of games that were being created and being released had increased to the point where they couldn't really section off a week for one Xbox Live Arcade game unto itself. So you had other games releasing alongside the Xbox Live Arcade Summer of Arcade highlight.
Mm-hmm.
Like, but yeah. So it always amused me a bit, while on the other side of the coin, making me want to be blunt here, punch Jonathan Blow in the face. There are many, 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 many reasons why he deserves that, but one of them is, like, he was very vocal about his perceived mishandling of his title by Microsoft.
Mm-hmm.
Like, not the only indie developer to levy complaints in that direction. I still remember Team Meats bitching about that.
Yep.
And to, in retrospect, similar, just the whiniest of whiny entitlement complaints,
Mhm.
especially where both their Super Meat Boy Forever project and Braid Anniversary Edition ended up. I.e., not noticed by a lot of people. Now, granted, in the case of Super Meat Boy Forever, a lot more was working against it because, they had, or at least Tommy, I guess, spoiler alert, Team Meat isn't really a team anymore. Haven't been for years.
Mm.
Like, yeah, they had like an irreconcilable split, and Tommy went over to manage Team Meat, and was it John? The Binding of Isaac creator. He's still doing Binding of Isaac.
Mm-hmm.
Like, anyway, point is, there was a lot working against that release, but different circumstances. Recentering on Braid Anniversary Edition. So, first problem out the gate is you probably did not notice this game came out. And it's not just because, the marketing force of Microsoft isn't behind it anymore. Because it had that momentum when it was first announced. Or at least the modern equivalent, which, once again, you're not getting anything like the Summer of Arcade ever again.
Mm-hmm.
That's just not a thing that can happen in today's world. There's just too much product. It's, I remember Braid Anniversary Edition being
Yeah,
announced.
no amount of promotion can make up for being like literally 1/5 of the market.
Right. Anyway, but Braid Anniversary Edition was announced, I want to say, in a Nintendo Direct, maybe in an indie highlight, one of those Nintendo highlight reels. That it's like, the problem is, like, it's so fuzzy because this was announced in like 2020, 2021. He spent a good 3 years remastering this game. And you might be puzzled as to why it took so long. Well, I'm sure one reason is, COVID. Like, it's kind of scary how memory hold the whole quarantine portion of COVID has become. It's like,
I think it's hard to like remember what was going on at a time.
but I'm saying that was going on, but it's not the only factor going on in terms of why Braid Anniversary Edition took so long to gestate. Another part is, this game has, it's not just a simple upscale, like you'd expect. And we've, like, bringing up Castle Crashers. I got an upscale, Castle Crashers remastered. That was a free update. No. this is more along the lines of Ori and the Blind Forest Definitive Edition. It's everything was redrawn for 4K. New content was added. A commentary track was inserted there that you can go listen to if you hate yourself and want to experience the personification of misery.
Now, some people might say that putting in a thing that requires you to stand still and wait 2.5 hours or 8 hours or whatever for a really slowly moving platform in order to unlock the true ending is a bad decision. But I, as a true auteur, realize that it is the best decision because
Get out.
I mean, Galax is not off base here.
I did say he was, but also get out.
From what I've heard from people who actually were willing to go and listen to the commentary track, Blow is basically the persona, the definition of pretentious, which is in line with everything I've seen and heard about him over the years. It's like the commentary is actually good when he's talking to other people, which doesn't happen all the time. So, yeah, it's kind of... If you want to hear Jonathan Blow talk about his game, you're going to get that. On the other hand, you're going to get that. Oh boy. But, another thing is, Braid isn't that special anymore. The thing that really made Braid explode back in 2008. Now, I'm not saying this was the only game that was ever doing anything of this sort, or being artsy, with themes and messages, and going beyond what a video game is and all that. But look, the simple fact of the matter is, there wasn't a lot that was doing what Braid was doing in 2008.
For some context here, most indie games at that era were basically tech demos to try and get them hired at a bigger company.
It's not just indie games, it's just gaming in general. Once again, I'm not saying that there were no games that explored themes and philosophies. I mean, for fuck's sakes, this was 3 years out from goddamn Shadow of the Colossus.
Fair.
Hell, Eco had existed for 7 years.
But this one is a colorful low-res platformer.
It's not a low-res platformer either. That's another thing that made...
It's a colorful platformer with pixel art.
No, it's not pixel art. That's another thing that made Braid stand out. Now, granted, if it was actual pixel art, it would have stood out in 2008 as well, because, there wasn't a lot of pixel art going on in 2008. Mm-hmm. But Braid is high-quality, hand-drawn stuff. It's got a real pastel, country portrait kind of look. Think more Owlboy than, say, V6 or Shovel Knight or anything like that. No. In terms of its actual graphical style, and Braid is still more rarefied than a lot of indie titles. But even today, just through sheer quantity, it's less special. But the thing is, Braid already had its time in the sun. Braid already had its think piece moments. It already had 1,001 articles, podcasts, YouTube videos. Granted, a lot less than what you would get today, what with video essays and lore vids and wikis and just all the stuff that exists around your average Souls game, for example. But Braid is kind of one of the things that laid the foundations for, the modern conversation around gaming. I do have to recognize that. And Braid did have loftier ambitions than, being just a platformer, with time manipulation mechanics. It's a 2D platformer that had things to say. And what were those things? Well, it's up to interpretation, which is just like catnip to fucking the artsy crowd and creating content on their own, derivative content on their own. I was there. Braid was, does the princess explosion, is this a metaphor for the atomic bomb?
Mhm.
I'm like, maybe it was. I'm like, didn't really seem to.
It's almost a plausible hypothesis.
Yeah. That being said, it didn't really connect to a larger theme about the use of an atomic weapon. That's my estimation. It's just
Doesn't exceed the level of, "Hi, I'm Rod Serling." Wouldn't that be fucked up?
right. It just feels more. Well, it's a conversation piece more than anything else. Once again, that's my interpretation of what was going on there. But this is this is the big reason why Braid was able to carry on for as long as it did. Because it had more substance than your average 2D platformer or average 3D platformer. Even today, the 2D platformer isn't necessarily where we see a lot of exploration of themes. And if you do, let's be honest, it's in the Metroidvania set. Axiom Verge comes to mind. Hollow Knight, Dead Cells. God, I'm trying to remember that one Metroidvania title that Naka played some years ago. I'm like,
I know he's played. You're not thinking about Mystic Bell, are you?
No. That was more like a Commodore adventure game wrapped up in a 2D platformer.
Yeah, I'm gonna need more details than that Metroidvania. It's not a genre he just avoids.
It's a really pixelated one where there was a lot of secrets.
Oh, the super low res one?
Yeah. That one.
Environmental Station Alpha?
That's the one. That one had a lot of fucking theming and stuff from what I remember. Which, granted, it's been a while since I looked up anything towards that, but anyway, so Braid had depth, and you can definitely argue it's pretentious as shit. That would absolutely be a fair point towards Braid. But the thing is, nobody really felt like reinvesting in that conversation. Because honestly, Braid felt like a one and done game. That's kind of the not the problem, but the trade-off when you go very narrative theme, what have you heavy in video games. it doesn't necessarily roll out to multiple play sessions.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I suppose. You know, I suppose it does depend on the type of game, but once again, like Braid already had that. And keep in mind, Braid wasn't confined to the Xbox Live Arcade by any means. Like Braid, proliferated. Don't want to say everywhere. You know, because Braid had never found its way onto the Nintendo platform until the Anniversary Edition. I think that's why Nintendo filled in for the marketing such as it was, because like if there was any sort of market left for people who hadn't already played Braid, it was probably the untapped Nintendo market. But that's the thing. Braid it came out everywhere at once, and it just kind of released. I also understand that Blow has been working on his next full-time project. I'm like, try to guess what it is. It's appropriately fucking pretentious.
No idea.
It's a Sokoban game that Jonathan Blow's building a whole new programming language for.
What?
Oh boy.
Building a programming language around or for?
For. Or, like, apparently this is related to his development problems with Braid and C sharp.
Aha.
Or C++. I
I was going to say that plus or sharp. I think those are both things.
Yeah, no, C# and C++. It's one of the two. Like,
One of the C's. There's like fucking 20 of them.
Yeah. Point is, he had problems working in that language. So both here and on The Witness. So he just decided to make a whole new programming language, and his first project in that is going to be a fucking Sokoban game.
I'll make my own program language from scratch. That will definitely be less buggy.
It'll be full of blackjack and hookers.
I mean, this is why it's taking. It's been what, like 7-8 years since the release of The Witness. So, yeah. It's a thing that's going to take time, and that layers onto Braid, which took 3 and some odd years to make. And it's called Braid Anniversary Edition, even though it's not really celebrating any significant anniversary, or if it was in development so long it missed it. Because God, how old? Like Braid is about, I want to say 13, 14 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's one of those anniversary numbers you don't really celebrate. Like kind of shy of 15, shy of 20, shy of any really notable anniversary. And yeah, like it's also the terribleness of Jonathan Blow himself probably played a factor. Because keep in mind we're talking about the indie market, which is a very, very large and expansive games, if that hasn't gotten across to people yet. Like, so those who would be keyed into what Braid is, they don't like Jonathan Blow these days. Not just because he's a pretentious git, but because he's, well, not full-on right-wing chud, He's very Chud-ish. Extremely misogynistic. That's been a thing since, back when Braid first blew up. Like, he did not have good comments about, women who made game. Like, and he's also an anti-vaxxer / anti-masker now, so he's got going that against him. So he's reached the Elon Musk paradox plateau, in that your political alignments have decided to line up with the worst elements of humanity, but do you see the thing that you make? Like, they're not your audience. At least, by and large, they're not your audience. This is why, I think about 3,000 Cybertrucks have been sold total. Because the intersection of right-wing chud and buyer of an electric vehicle, not a large cross-section. Ditto, right-wing shithead RP game that ponders the existence of stuff and questions the use of nuclear weapons and the role of the princess in video game. And that's not those are not things that chuds think of. At least not in terms of positivity, or wondering why you might be saving a damsel and thinking the hero might be the villain that caused everything. Oh dear God. Do right-wing chuds do not possess that kind of thought pattern. If they did, there would be so many less problems in the world. Am I wrong?
I didn't say you were.
Anyway, I could go on. There are 1,001 reasons why anniversary edition of Braid fell flat on its fucking ass. But I'd say it's you have to put in the work, especially if you're charging 20 goddamn bucks for it. It's not a free upgrade that just shows up in your Steam library one day.
I mean, you did get a discount, if I recall correctly, but you're still paying for it.
But since Blow his company was handling the publishing, marketing, all of that business instead of another publisher. Granted, that's a thing that could have caused its own contentions. It was up to him or marketing people he would hire to get the word out. And, that's why indie publishers, PR agencies, us exist. Because, getting the word out is priority number one on this scene. Well, anyway, so yeah, I think that'll about do it for Braid here. And indeed, that'll about do it for this installment of Fragments of Silicon. Coming up on the week ahead, we do have a new episode of MSP planned, and it looks like everything is sorted with the guest this time. Avoiding what happened 2 weeks ago. No Friday show this week. So coming up on the Sunday reviews, we'll be having reviews of Zany Golf, Knock on the Coffin Lid, Cats of Beauty, and Sam and Max, The Devil's Playhouse. So look for that, and until next time, I shall wish you good gaming.